or intuition? What's a girl to do? Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. Today I want to give you a little piece of dating advice that is kind of contradictory to a lot of the advice that I see out there. I'm not going to say that this advice is perfect for everybody. I think you have to use your own discernment. However, coming to this conclusion and this realization gave me a huge sense of peace. And so I'm hoping that by giving you this piece of advice that you will also feel a sense of peace if you're somebody who has gone through some of the stuff that I've been through. So if you are someone who, like me and like many of us, who tend to be very attracted to the wrong people, particularly somebody who is, you know, say like emotionally unavailable. Just because you're not attracted to somebody who is available doesn't automatically mean that they're the right person for you. Let me explain. I think sometimes in our brains, at least I know in mine sometimes, especially if you tend to live in logic a little bit too much, if you start to realize a pattern of like, okay, the people that I am very attracted to are not right for me or not emotionally available or something like that, you start to think that if you're not attracted to somebody who, like, say is emotionally available or something, that this must be the right person for me, or you start to feel that pressure of like, oh no, but this person's available, but I'm not attracted to them. There must be something wrong with me. You know, and I feel like a lot of dating advice people are gonna say, well, you should go out with them because like you need to break the pattern. And I'm not saying that that's wrong all the time. And I'm not saying that that's not the right choice for some people. And I also think too, sometimes we can get really caught up in the guilt and shame and beating ourselves up over the fact that we're not attracted to this person who seems to be available, that we don't always see things for how they really are. And oftentimes that guilt and shame that we're putting ourselves through and that stress can cause us to actually not pay attention to the red flags that this person is actually giving us. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like our sexual desire or our chemistry or like instant attraction can cause us to ignore the red flags in the person who is wrong for us, or is, you know, is obviously emotionally unavailable, or like in those people. Our guilt and shame and, you know, frustration and fear and all that kind of stuff that's coming up over a person who is very available to us that we're not attracted to can also cause us to ignore the red flags in that person too. Because we're still not paying attention to the person, we're paying attention to what's going on in our minds, like we're in our heads. This is where I think it's really important for us to drop down into our intuition. Some of you may be listening to what I've just said and you're just like, yeah, duh, like I know all this. And if that's the case, great, you're probably doing better than me because I had to learn this. This is a relatively new realization for me. But I know I'm not the only person that's been through this, so, you know, I'm hoping this will be helpful for some. But if you're just like, yeah, duh, I get it, all right, that's been great, awesome. I also think if you are someone who is new to dating, whether maybe you're young or you just don't have a lot of dating experience, then the idea of like, yeah, just give this person a chance, get to know them, you know, that can be a good option. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that that's bad advice. I would encourage everybody who is, you know, dating or wants a relationship or anything to really have a clear, like, vision of the really important things to you, like the things that really matter to you. It can be a short list, it can be a long list, you can actually write out the list, and you can do a vision board, you can just have the vision in your head, like, you know, whatever works for you. Like, I'm not telling you how to do that. I'm also encouraging you to really focus on the stuff that like really truly matters to you, like your kind of like core, like non-negotiables, like the thing that a person in a relationship really has to have for you to know that this person needs to be compatible with you, like whatever that is. And for some people that list may be really long and may be really specific. For some people it may be a shorter list, it may not be as specific. Some people may have like a really short list of like really specific things, like whatever it is. Like, I'm not here to judge, and I think that particularly women, I don't know if men get this as much as women do. I'm sure men get this to some extent, but I know women get massively shamed for having like any kind of standard or any kind of need or want. Like, I look back at some of the things that I've been shamed for like expecting from a guy, and I'm just like, wow, those weren't even things that like should have been expected from like a dating relationship. Like, some of those things were just basic human decency. And like, people were like, oh, that's obviously why you're still single, because you're so picky. It's like, whoa, you know what I mean? And I have to admit, when I was younger, I would let that stuff get in my head. So having a really clear vision of like what's truly important to you in a partner is so, so important. Because then when you get distracted by other stuff that's going on, you can always go back to that and as a sort of like, okay, where does this person align with what it is that I know I truly need? And obviously, like, the younger that you are, the earlier that you are in your dating experience, you may not fully know, and like that list can shift and change. I mean, obviously, like, we're ever evolving beings, but having that initial like idea in your head, or that list, or that those sort of non-negotiables can be really, really important for keeping you grounded when you've got all kinds of emotions and traumas and triggers and all kinds of stuff that are coming up when you're actually dealing with a person, right? You know, it's funny how we always talk about the fairy tale stories of, like, you know, the Disney stories and like the happily ever after stories that get stuck in our head and make us fantasize the person that like is wrong for us. And we start like putting someone up on a pedestal and ignoring the red flags, and like, we all know that story. Like, that's a very common thing. There's also another phenomenon that we don't talk about as much, is that a lot of times in a lot of these dating advice things or whatever, like, you get a lot of people that say, and I'm sure this is true, like, I'm not denying that this doesn't happen sometimes, but you get the person who's like, yeah, I was like really not attracted to this person, I wasn't interested in this person, and then I gave them a chance, and now we're like together and happy and everything's wonderful. And that, hey, if that's your story, great, like, honor that, own it. 100%. Like, I cheer on anybody who has actually found love and is happy. I really do. However, sometimes those stories can get stuck in your head too, and they can start to make the person that you're not attracted to, it can put them on not necessarily a pedestal, but it can start to get in your head of you convincing yourself that, like, oh, okay, now this person that I'm really not attracted to, oh my god, like, what if this is my person? Like, I don't want this to be my person. And you start getting that story in your head, which is honestly just as distracting as the fantasy story that you have about the, you know, the handsome prince that you have up on a pedestal. This fear of this other person that you're really not attracted to being your person, that gets stuck in your head, and you can very easily ignore the red flags in that person too, because the same thing that's distracting you on this side is also distracting you on this side. It's just one is coming from a place of fantasy and one's coming from a place of fear, and in both cases you're not listening to your intuition, so you're literally just acting out your trauma and ignoring what's actually going on with the person. I think what's helpful is, like, say someone is interested in you, or is making an effort, or is emotionally available, or, you know, or seems to be, at least, right? If you're not interested in them, like, instead of sitting down and saying, like, oh my god, I feel so guilty, I'm not attracted to them, I feel so bad that I'm not attracted to them, like, why is it that I always only end up attracted to the people that are wrong for me? Maybe other people are telling you that, because I've had a lot of people tell me that too, who've tried to pressure me into going out with people who I was not interested in at all. And in some cases I did listen to them, and I did go ahead and go out with these people, and I don't want to say I regret it, because I mean, everything happened for a reason. But in every situation, I always left the experience going, yep, should have listened to my gut on that one. And I shouldn't have been listening to this other person telling me that there was something wrong with me because I wasn't interested in this person. Or like telling me that, like, well, you're only interested in the people that don't want you. Or, you know, you're only interested, like, those stories that get in your head. And like every single time that I have like actually been like, okay, I'll give this person a chance because I'm feeling so much guilt that I'm not interested in them and they're interested in me. Every single time after that, I've always been like, yep, should have listened to my gut. And I mean, nothing like massively bad has happened. It's all learning experiences, right? So like, I'm not saying that I have like regrets about doing it. So like, if you do have a really serious dating pattern, or you're young and you don't have much dating experience, like actually going ahead and doing that. So like, just being like, all right, you know what, I'll give this person a chance, we'll go on a date, we'll do this, whatever. Like, I mean, as long as you stay safe, go for it. Like, I'm not telling you to not do that, because I know there's what a lot of dating advice people are going to tell you. I feel like not enough people emphasize going with your gut in some of these situations, because it's so focused on breaking a pattern that they never actually focus on the fact that, like, you know what, maybe that fear and that shame or whatever that you're feeling is masking your intuition with this person as much as it's masking it with the fantasy person, right? So like, I'll say for example, like I have a pattern which actually came forward not too long ago with a person I was very attracted to, and I mean, I will admit they did have a few qualities that were on my list of things that I was looking for in a person, but it became pretty clear that they didn't have a lot of other things that were a big requirement of mine. And the red flags were popping up, but I was very attracted to them, and I kind of ignored some of the red flags until the red flags just started smacking me in the head. And, well, I mean, he didn't actually hit me. I'm like, I didn't actually get hit, but like the red flags were just sort of like too big to ignore. And like, I was just like, okay, this is, whoa, okay. Another person massively interested in me, and I was just so not attracted to them. Like so not attracted to them, but they were really like interested, and I had so much like guilt. Like I was just like tearing myself up because I felt so bad, because I was like, why is it that this person who's like emotionally unavailable and doesn't really want a relationship with me and whatever, like why am I attracted to them, but like I'm not attracted to this other person who like clearly is interested in this and that. And when I actually like sat back and because I have a list, but I actually sat down and I just wrote out the list of like the things that I really need to have in a person that are just really important to me, like what my values are, like what shared values I really want in a partner, and like what is really important to me. I was like, wow, neither of these guys fit into this category at all. Like, they're not it at all. The person who I was massively attracted to ticked off more of the boxes than the other person, you know, and that's probably one of the reasons why I was attracted. I latched onto the things that were what I wanted in this person and ignored some of the signs that other things were not there. This other person that was interested in me, he didn't really tick off any of the boxes. Like, I mean, maybe a few, but like not, like he wasn't even close to what I was looking for in a person. But like I ignored those things. Like I ignored the red flags in that person too, because I was feeling so much guilt and shame about like, oh, why am I not attracted to the people that are interested in me? When I wasn't actually ever looking at this person and being like, but is this person someone who I want? Like, is this person someone who is exhibiting the qualities of what I'm looking for in a person? I feel like we get a little bit too focused on, or a lot too focused on, is this person choosing us, or whether or not this person, like, oh, this person's not choosing me, this person's choosing me, and this and that. And we don't actually sit back, and this is for men and women, we don't actually sit back and be like, do I want to choose this person? Like, I mean, obviously it has to go both ways. Like, both people have to choose each other in order for it to work, right? But sometimes some of us, I'm guilty of this, I'm sure I'm not the only person, we get so caught up in, is this person choosing me, that we don't actually stop and be like, but do I want to choose this person? Whether they choose me or whether they don't, or whether they're into me or whether they're not, like, do I even want to choose this person? And it's kind of what I want to, but I kind of want to get people to think about, right? So another thing that I think is really important to ask yourself in some of these situations, say for example, you're not like, you haven't fallen for someone, like you're not like instant chemistry, right? You're not like instant, which very often that instant chemistry can very often be a trauma bond. Not always, but it can be. So it is, I'm not saying to ignore that instant chemistry, but like it's something to kind of be like, all right, let's not jump the gun here. Like, let's actually get to know this person. But also, if you have someone who you're like, oof, like you're kind of like pushing away, or you're hesitant, especially if you have a reputation for like only going for people that are wrong for you. If you do find somebody that you're like not totally sure about, like you're like, ooh, I'm not fully attracted to them, you know, this and that, right? Of course, the first thing you should ask yourself is, okay, like, and sometimes on dating apps, when you're first getting to know someone, like obviously you don't know everything about them, but like just ask yourself, okay, so what I know about this person, like what they've shown me, like what I can see about this person, do they line up with what I'm looking for? And if they don't have any glaring, like, red flags, they don't have any glaring anything or whatever, then maybe continuing to get to know them might be the right answer. If you're literally just sort of like, ugh, then move on. If you do meet this person, you're kind of like, you're not totally sure, like you're like, you know, I don't know if I'm feeling the vibe here, but they don't have anything glaring, or maybe they even line up a lot with the things that you are looking for in a person. Asking yourself, do I feel worthy of this person or not? Because I know for a lot of us, myself included, worthiness has been a huge factor for me. Or maybe not even just worthiness, but like for some people, you know, just, do I not feel good enough for this person? I guess that could be another way of putting it. Or like, you know, it's the same thing as worthiness. But anyway, is it a fear that I'm not good enough? Is it a fear that I'm not enough, or something? Or maybe a fear that maybe I'm too much? Or like, is it that kind of fear that I don't think I'm deserving of this or worthy of this? Because I think a lot of times what happens is, I see it in a lot of like dating advice things where we kind of like convince everyone that, well, if you're running away from someone who's interested in you, that you must not think you're worthy of the relationship. And that might be true. And asking yourself those questions is 100% valid. But don't just assume that that's what's true, right? Because like for me, people were always like, you're afraid of commitment. I'm like, yeah, but I was 100% ready to commit to this other person. And then I found out that they weren't available. But when I thought they were available, I was like, I'm good to go. And I was like anxiously attached, probably. I don't really know that much about attachment styles, to be 100% honest, but like I was more like anxiously attached to this person. This person over here that was like coming at me like gangbusters, I was like, woo. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm avoiding detachment. It might mean that like my intuition is going like, no. You know what I mean? If it's a pattern for you, if you're like always avoidant attachment, and you're always avoiding people, and you're always avoiding connection, you're avoiding any kind of commitment, like you find yourself like across the board always being avoidant, then maybe trying to break that pattern might be something to work on. But if you don't find yourself consistently avoidant attachment, like you're not consistently avoiding connection with people, then you wanting to avoid connection with this person could be your intuition telling you that this isn't the right person for you. So it's a matter of like, okay, am I always avoiding connection with people? Or is it this person I'm avoiding the connection with? And I think that's a fair thing to ask yourself. And the worthiness piece of like, am I feeling like I'm gonna be a disappointment to this person? Or am I feeling like I'm not good enough for this person? If that's what you're feeling, then maybe, and I'm not asking anybody to like, if you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with issues, I'm not telling anyone to like to re-traumatize themselves or anything. Like if you're like, I'm not ready for this, I just wanna work on healing, whatever, that's fine. Like I'm not pushing anybody into anything. But if you do feel ready, pushing yourself out of that comfort zone and saying, okay, maybe I'll give this person a chance and like just see where it goes, could be valid. But if you're like, no, it's not that I don't feel worthy of this person, I'm just feeling like really like uncomfortable around this person, I'm just feeling really uneasy about this person, it's not that you're not feeling worthy of their attention or their whatever, you're just feeling like not comfortable, or like something inside you is like, no, not good, then that could be your intuition talking and not your feelings of unworthiness. And I'll tell you a story. I actually had this experience. This was many, many years ago. I was actually on the road traveling. I was doing comedy and I met this guy. Now I was not in a good place mentally at this point in time. I was not doing any of this inner work or anything like that. And I met this guy. He was not a comic, mind you. I met this guy. I was traveling and he was very, very good looking. And I was in the South, and he's very much a Southern gentleman, and he's very interested in me, which I have to admit threw me off. Like it just was like, I didn't anticipate it because I don't have a reputation for having like really good looking guys hitting on me. I was just really intimidated by this guy, and I have to admit, in hindsight, he did everything right. Like he was the epitome of a Southern gentleman. Like he put in an effort, he showed me that he was interested, but he wasn't like pushy or he wasn't needy. Like he was a complete gentleman. And I freaked out, like absolutely panic freaked out. And I basically just like made the conversation so unbelievably awkward that he basically obviously took it as a hint that I wasn't interested, and eventually just like backed off and gave up. And this isn't about him. Like, I have to admit, like, I didn't know a huge amount about him, but what I did know, what little I did know from conversation, he checked off some of the boxes. You know, I don't know if this person and I would have been compatible long term, or we wouldn't have been, like, whatever. This isn't about having regrets or anything, because obviously everything that happens is a learning experience. I believe all this stuff happens for a reason. How I reacted at the time was just where I was, you know, mentally and emotionally at that time, right? And I look back on that interaction, and not from a place of regret, because, you know, hey, I I was just doing whatever my wounding and trauma was telling me to do at the time, and I have to honor who I was in that point in time. But when I look back on it as a learning experience, I can say to myself, I did not feel worthy of this person's attention. I didn't feel worthy of this person's interest, or is this person actually like showing that they were interested in me. My nervous system was like not used to someone being like a southern gentleman. Like it was so like having this like tall, dark, and handsome man who was like really interested in me was totally outside my comfort zone. It was not at all what I was used to. So I panicked. It was totally a feeling of unworthiness. I pushed him away because I didn't feel good enough for him in that moment, and I wasn't used to it, and I obviously had a lot of healing to do, and it was probably like 10 years ago, so it took me like 10 years to actually figure this out. But I've had other guys who have made an effort, who have been interested in me, and I haven't been interested in them, and it's not from a place of I don't feel worthy of this person being interested in me. It's of a place of I'm not interested in this person. This is not a person that I am attracted to physically or mentally or anything. So I think sometimes looking back on past experiences, not from a place of judgment or shame, but of like, what can I learn from this experience? And starting to notice, like, when were there times in your body where you were acting out of a fear of not being good enough? And when were you acting out of like judging and shaming yourself for like, I should want to do this, or I should want this, or I should be interested in this, but I'm not. So if you get anything from this video, I hope that it's not just like massive sexual attraction and massive chemistry that can make you blind to red flags. A lot of times, sometimes like shame, fear, judgment, like old limiting beliefs or stories that you're getting from either yourself in your own mind or you're getting from other people, those things can also blind you to paying attention to the red flags. 2, it's really important that you actually get a really clear vision on the things that are important to you when it comes to dating people, because that will really help you weed people out. And also, like, listen to your intuition. Trust your intuition, trust your gut, or wherever it is that you feel your intuition in your body, like, trust that. Because while sometimes, yes, you know, your fear and your traumas can inform where you're going in your life, it's important to not ignore your intuition as well, and understand when it is like a trauma and trigger, or like a feeling of unworthiness or a feeling of too muchness that's coming in, and allowing yourself to like let your intuition, let your body, let your gut, let your, you know, your third eye intuition, like wherever you feel your intuition in your body, like let that tell you what it wants to tell you, and not just ignoring it and like assuming that it's a trauma or a trigger. Maybe it is, but like asking your body that, like learning to get in touch with your body and in tune with your body. And I do believe that this advice is actually important for men and women. I actually think that this can, you know, women do have a stronger connection to their natural intuition, but men have a connection to their intuition as well. And it's something that I've noticed and I've experienced in my life. And I felt such a sense of peace when I came to this conclusion, and I realized that, you know, I can release the shame and judgment from like not being attracted to people that might be interested in me, because that doesn't mean that they're my person. That doesn't mean that I have to go out with them or that I have to give them a chance. Because if my gut and my intuition is telling me, no, this isn't your person, like this person doesn't line up with what you want, I can let that go, and I don't have to judge or shame myself for that. Like, they're just not my person, and that's okay. It's not a reflection on like my attachment style or anything. It may just mean that that person just didn't align for me. And then working on my own sense of self-worth, so that when the right person does come along, I don't run away, and I'm not afraid of this person not thinking I'm good enough for them, or like I'm not running away in fear. If you are a female who wants to connect and heal your feminine energy, I have an online course called Feminine Radiance. The link will be in the description box below, so if you want to check that out, it's really great, like especially if you are just beginning to connect deeper to your feminine energy. I really highly suggest that you check that out. If you have any other topics you would like me to discuss, I have a few that were requests that I'm going to be filming soon. So if you have any requests, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I love to hear from you. I love your suggestions. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, and be sure you subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on social media. All the links will be in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.